Hey guys, it's Ted with HDpiano. Here's our version of LOVE. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to pause there because in this lesson section, we're just going to cover everything I did so far. The rest of the song is all in later lesson sections at hdpiano.com. We're going to start by learning this introduction. Now, this is pretty much what Nat King Cole played on the piano in the recording. Most of our arrangement here is a simplified, easy melody version, but this is actually legit, but it's not too hard to play. We have a bunch of chords like this that might be unfamiliar to you if you've mostly played simpler pop chords on piano. These chords really all are G major chords, but they're just made into slightly fancier jazz versions of G major chords by adding these other notes. So the first one looks like this. It's G, A, B, and D. The next one's exactly the same, but we're going to add in this finger to get this chord, nice and crunchy. And it might not sound like much, but when it's going by really quick, it has a nice effect. Then our next chord looks like this. We're just moving that top note up one note. And notice that I'm switching from finger 4, or ring finger, to finger 5 for that top note. And then we'll come back down through here. And through all of this in the right hand, the left hand is just holding out a G. So let's hear how that sounds in rhythm. I'm going to do that rhythm even slower now. It sounds like this. 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, 4. And that exact same thing happens again. 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, 4. This kind of rhythm, it really can help be precise with it to practice it at slow tempos. But sometimes it's actually harder to do at slow tempos. It's why it's useful. It can be a challenge at first. So if you're struggling with playing it at that slow tempo with the counting as I just did, listen to the performance at the start of the lesson that's at full tempo, or listen to the Nat King Cole recording and listen for that piano part. And that'll get you a little bit of an intuitive feeling for how the rhythm's supposed to sound. Okay, so that's our introduction. Let's move into the verse here, and we're gonna be playing the melody in the right hand, but I wanna give you guys an easy win with the left hand first. The left hand is super simple, especially in this first phrase. We just start with G and B, and then we're gonna move to A and C. We stay on A and C. And then we move back to G and B. Let me show you how the melody goes with that. Here's where you can sing the melody in your head or aloud, and it's really going to help you remember what's supposed to happen where. 3, 4. Couple of things to point out. One, I crossed over my thumb with my second finger to get this D sharp. And that's fun to do. It also helps me make the notes sound connected. And I also want to draw attention to that D sharp because it's not in the key that we're in. We are in the key of G major, and these are the notes of the G major scale. You're probably more used to hearing scales like this. But you can visualize them really quick if you see it like this. And that D sharp does not belong. So this is called a chromatic note. It comes from our chromatic scale, which is just every single note that's on the piano. And sometimes we have a little chromatic note like this when it is like neighboring an important melody note. Right, it's very pretty, and I think it's an important part of the sound of this melody. We're going to come across a lot of these little neighbor chromatic notes. All right, let's go to our next phrase here. So after we went, now we go. So pretty. So again, I want to draw your attention to a neighbor note. It's pretty crunchy at this slow tempo. Right, if you just land there, oh my gosh, doesn't really work with the left hand. But when it's going by quickly, it sounds great. Okay, so let's move on from here. We have some new left-hand chords to learn. We start on just a straight up G major triad. Then we're going to go to C over G. We're keeping our G in the bass, and we just need to move these top couple notes. Our next chord is going to look like this. So I'm just moving the C up to C sharp. And then here's the trickiest left-hand transition in this section. It goes like this. So here's where we were. The bottom two notes just walk down a half step, which means the very next available note, whether it's black or white. The top note comes down a whole step from E to D. So here's that transition again. And that last chord, this is a D7 with F sharp in the bass. This chord is going to be short. Make a little break before we get into the next section. Let's hear all those chords against the right-hand melody. That part's pretty easy to remember because we're only using these four notes, and they do all come from the G major scale. Let's keep going. So that covers it. That's our entire intro and first section to this easy melody version of LOVE. A couple tips for you guys. So one is that if you want to really get the rhythmic feeling to the melody, I highly recommend listening to the Nat King Cole recording. He was a famous singer for a reason. He's an amazing singer. And a big part of what makes it so fun to listen to his voice is the rhythm of how he sings. So I recommend checking that out. And I'd also just recommend using your ear as much as possible when you're playing through this melody. If you can reference the sound of the melody in your head, it's going to help you remember where you need to go down, where you need to go up. And that's going to go a really long way because mostly this melody is just stepwise motion. It's going to the very next note in the G major scale. So you might be surprised by how far you can get just by remembering how the melody is supposed to sound. And with that, that's the end of part 1. Okay, great job on part 1. If you're on HDpiano.com already, you can click on the next video. If you're not, head on over so you can keep going with this song. If there's another song you want to learn, send us your ideas at requests.hdpiano.com. You can follow us on social media for a heads up about new lessons. And if you're on YouTube, drop us a comment because we love hearing from you. I'm Ted with HDpiano.com. Until next time.